done on Sunday, Journey of the Wingless. Nimue here is going to do a few things today. As the description states, going to finish off going through the season of Moomin, and depending on how much time we got, we'll go and take a look at the quests available in the Crescent Oasis. Neither one of which should be a huge challenge for her, but yeah, worth doing. So last time we did the actual quests in the Moomin season, and I read from the book The Invisible Child to give you full context, and then we went ahead and did the Abyss quests. So this time you should see that we've done all of these. Ooh, I wouldn't mind getting that. No, it's not worth it. And I don't have the candles to get her the invisible outfit. So we did all these quests on this side, and then, as I understand it, this basically tells the story. And then this side is, well, to me it struck me as being an interpretation of the story from Ninny's perspective. And I'll be honest, I actually found it both disturbing and emotional and quite moving. So if you remember at the beginning of the story, Ninny is brought to the Moomins through a dark and stormy night. She had been taken care of by an extremely unpleasant older female relative, often assumed to be her aunt, although I don't believe that's actually stated. And so therefore what we're seeing here is not so much an actual representation of how she was living, but how she feels about how she was living. Dark and wet and isolated. No light, or very little light. No hope. And here, I suppose she's making the journey through the night, wet, cold. Don't know what Ninny was thinking when she was going through this. After all, she had essentially been abandoned by the person looking after her and handed over to a complete stranger, which must have been a scary experience for her. So she's going to be very frightened. Oh, you're welcome, Liz. I'm glad you got through Eden. That is quite a challenge and very satisfying when you do it. And so that's the first part of the story. Basically, I suppose, what it was like for Ninny making it to the Moomin's house. But you'll notice there's very little hope there for her at this point. To her, I suppose, she must simply have been handed off rather heartlessly from one person to another to, I don't know, this odd family. Oops, wrong one. I have to ask, is that Liz? I can't tell. Were you playing on PC, or were you playing on console, or were you playing on a tablet? So moving on to the second part of the story. Hang on, I'm just going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's 6 parts. Huh. So it's very tempting to assume at this point she's got a glimmer of hope because she's been treated kindly. She's been given her own room. I would imagine she feels very fragile. Perhaps she's been given hope, but she doesn't know how to act yet. She doesn't know how to behave. She doesn't know what's expected of her. She's going to be terrified that this hope is taken away from her. But there is the possibility of a light at the end of the tunnel. And so perhaps this represents the journey ahead of her. Not going to be easy, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel. So perhaps this represents the challenge ahead of her. And it would be an awful challenge. She sunk so low that she's invisible. And now, perhaps she has hope. Perhaps she feels she does. But she's got all these strange people to deal with. And that's their own set of challenges, because, let's be honest, they have certain expectations of her. And perhaps that's the shock of that. She doesn't know or understand what's expected of her. All she knows is, I don't know, to stay invisible. But she's very bravely going to climb ahead and push forward, because she has that spark of hope within her. I'm sure there are others who have done a better analysis of this. Perhaps it's significant that they're representing this as an upward struggle. Because, of course, one of the problems with an upward struggle is falling off. Or being pushed backwards. Or of disappointing the people who are in their own way trying to help her. Which of course, in the short story, she kind of does. Of course, also in the short story, at this point, she's taking this strange medicine that's never mentioned in this version of the story, but is a major part of the original. So you have to wonder to what extent, and it's been cut away from her, and she's been pushed back, and some hope has been stripped away from her. And this might represent where she couldn't act in the way that they expected. And the book's actually a little unfair to her, I think. But Moomin Mama steps in with her medicine and reassurance that it didn't matter about breaking the jar. Oops. I'm not sure. Maybe I can't make this as wingless. I thought you could. But she finds out how to progress, perhaps? Yep. And in the story, she does have a few instances like this. You know, she accidentally breaks the jar. She's asked to play games that she doesn't know how to play. All she knows is she's supposed to go along with it, because that's what they expect. And she would have thought, after all, so now she's reached this pinnacle. She has to make another huge leap. So hard for her to do. And not made any easier, to be honest, by the people she's with. Especially in the story. But she comes out of that scene, it seems, with, yeah, she's made a significant break. Progress. I can't remember. Did we do? I can't remember. Did we do this one already? Oh, hang on, the keyboard's funny. Did we do this one? No, we didn't. Okay. But she's starting off. There's literally a beacon of hope ahead of her in the form of a lighthouse. Things are a lot more pleasant. Perhaps this is the bit where she's expected to play games. But she has a long way to go. And they have very little understanding. So she's got this struggle now. to try and do what is expected of her. Now there's actually a risk in this, because now she's already a people pleaser, and now she's trying to please the others who don't understand. They thought, for example, after all, that, you know, if she could play a few games, everything would be fine. Of course, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Again, I like to point out that when this book was written in 1962, attitudes towards child's mental health was not the same as today. So here she's got her demons coming to haunt her. And in a way they're being reinforced, because she can't do anything that's expected of her. And that's very difficult for the poor girl. And she must feel terrible at this point. So perhaps we're looking here at improved self-image, despite everything she's gone through. Perhaps it's whatever medication Moomin Mama put her on. I noticed they did keep that out of the story, because it kind of implies she was possibly drugged up to the eyeballs. Oh, that was funny. For a second I thought that was part of the story. And what must it feel to be in her place, knowing that there's hope still ahead of her, but she's got that vast chasm to cross. And yet we have this really quite terrifying looking house that she can't avoid, and she's being sucked in. Possibly back into the abyss of her depression, her invisible state, if you like, because she's disappointed the people who are trying to help. Or she feels she's disappointed them, which is the same thing. And so she's back to where she started. But perhaps that little butterfly still offers a certain degree of hope for her. And now she has to fight her way out again. So technically, I suppose she still has hope. She still has the light ahead of her. Her goal. But now, she's got all these obstacles put in her way that she somehow has to negotiate in her head. And please note, she has to do it on her own. And I can't remember how you're supposed to get up there. I don't think it's that way, is it? Don't think I can jump up there. Nope, I can't. I've done this before. I just can't remember how I did it. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. And this is where she has to make... I'm not sure if this is the final jump, but it certainly looks like it. I'd love to know if that game company actually consulted with a child psychologist about this. So does this represent that final bit where she becomes outraged at what she thinks is Moomin Papa's attempt to dunk Moomin Mama into the ocean? And this is where she makes the decision to get angry? But she still has that huge cavern. And behind her are her demons and the house that made her invisible. But she looks like she's going to be brave. And make that final jump. And the symbolism there is potentially interesting. Does she think that maybe she's doing something irrevocably wrong or irrevocably right? Because she wouldn't know. All she knows is she's getting angry. And it's interesting that she comes to the defense of Moomin Mama. And now perhaps that gives her wings. Although, of course, in Nimue's case, that's... a little deceptive. And she's defeating her demons, perhaps? I have to admit, this bit is quite uplifting. And I hope I don't get a copyright strike for this. There is some... I think there's actually been some scholarly work done on analysing the invisible child. And I... honestly, too much of it to go through. There's debate about what the medicine was that she was being given. There's actual debate about that. I think possibly one of the mistakes trying to analyze that is we don't know what was in Tove Janssen's mind back in 1962 when she wrote this. But that is a nice little ending.